How do traditional Japanese gardens, with their meticulously maintained stone water basins, dense, shaded bamboo groves, and constant summer humidity remain completely mosquito-free during the sweltering heat of August? Without a single toxic chemical fogger or a sticky can of bug spray, it isn't a modern chemical miracle. It is a profound, fundamental shift in biological thinking, and it works just as flawlessly in a muggy, humid backyard in Florida, Texas, or Ohio as it does in a damp, shaded courtyard in Kyoto. If your yard turns into an unbearable, biting nightmare the second the sun starts to set, you have been tricked into fighting an unwinnable war against the symptom. And today, I am going to show you the Japanese method that fixes the underlying cause for good. We will do this in two specific, actionable parts. First, we will uncover exactly why the expensive professional fogging services and yard sprays you buy are actually making your mosquito problem permanently worse. And then, I will show you the ingenious, biological Japanese trap that safely collapses the entire mosquito population in days without harming a single honeybee, butterfly, or pet. Number. The endless cycle of chemical warfare. You know the exact sound, smell, and feeling of this frustrating summer tragedy perfectly well. You have spent all spring making your backyard beautiful. You have a patio, a grill, and comfortable outdoor furniture. But the moment the late afternoon sun dips below the tree line, the invasion begins. The high-pitched, microscopic whine in your ear. The sudden, sharp bite on your ankle. Within 10 minutes, you are frantically slapping your arms, retreating back inside the house, and abandoning your own property to a swarm of vampires. When this massive quality-of-life failure happens, you do exactly what the multi-billion-dollar pest control industry has explicitly trained you to do. You enter a state of deep, reactionary panic. You drive to the local hardware store and buy cans of sticky, foul-smelling DEET spray, coating your skin in chemicals. You light smoky, useless citronella candles that blow in the wrong direction. Or, worse, you pick up the phone and call a professional mosquito fogging service. You pay a technician hundreds of dollars to walk through your yard wearing a heavy respirator mask, wielding a massive gas-powered blower. They blast every single bush, tree, and blade of grass on your property with a thick, white chemical cloud of broad-spectrum synthetic pesticides, usually a heavy dose of pyrethroids. The technician promises you a mosquito-free yard for 3 weeks. And for the first 48 hours, it actually seems to work. You walk outside at dusk, and you don't get bitten. You pat yourself on the back. You think you have finally won the war against nature. Then, exactly 5 days later, the mosquitoes return with a vengeance. The swarm is often significantly larger and more aggressive than it was before you paid for the chemical fogging. You are trapped in an incredibly expensive, emotionally exhausting cycle of guaranteed failure. You are forced to call the spraying company back out, writing another heavy check, blindly funding an endless cycle of biological destruction on your own property. But the mosquitoes are not invincible. The summer humidity is not the core of your problem. The fundamental issue is that you are completely ignoring the physiological reality of the insect, and you are desperately trying to wage chemical warfare on an environment that is designed to endlessly replace what you just killed. Number, the free quick win, the Mizutamari audit. We need to stop right here. Step completely away from the toxic chemical sprays and fix the actual physical environment first. Here is your first quick win, and it will cost you absolutely $0 to execute right now. Go put your boots on and walk outside. We are going to perform a rigorous Japanese Mizutamari audit. Mizutamari times translates simply to puddles or standing water. A female mosquito does not need a massive swamp to lay her eggs. She only requires a volume of stagnant water the size of a single bottle cap to deposit 300 microscopic eggs. You must walk your property and ruthlessly eliminate the hidden times Mizutamari. Look directly at the black corrugated plastic drain pipes attached to your downspouts. If they have a dip in them, they are holding water and breeding thousands of mosquitoes. Look at the plastic saucers underneath your potted patio plants. Look at the old tire swing, the forgotten children's toys in the corner of the yard, the sagging heavy-duty tarp covering your firewood, and the clogged rain gutters above your head. Walk the yard and physically dump every single drop of standing water you can find onto the dry dirt. Turn the buckets upside down. Drill drainage holes in the bottom of your outdoor trash cans. You have just instantly destroyed tens of thousands of future mosquitoes before they ever had the chance to develop wings, and you did it without spraying a single drop of poison. Is greater than. Quick, tell me in the comments exactly what you have been doing to fight mosquitoes this year. Are you currently trapped in a contract with a fogging company, or are you just hiding indoors every night? Let me know down below. Number. The biological scam of fogging and sprays. To truly understand why the Japanese approach is so incredibly brilliant and why professional fogging is a catastrophic scam, we have to look directly at the biology of the pesticide and the ecological devastation it leaves behind. When a pest control company sprays your yard with synthetic pyrethroids like permethrin or bifenthrin, they are using what is called a broad-spectrum, non-selective contact killer. This means the chemical absolutely does not care what insect it touches. If an insect lands on a sprayed leaf, its central nervous system is instantly paralyzed, and it dies. Yes, this kills the adult mosquitoes that happen to be hiding in your bushes at that exact moment. But it also brutally annihilates every single beneficial insect on your property. It massacres the local honeybees. It kills the monarch butterflies. It wipes out the lightning bugs, the ladybugs, and the native solitary wasps. Most importantly, the toxic fog absolutely decimates the natural native predators of the mosquito. It kills the garden spiders that catch them in webs. It kills the dragonflies that hunt them in midair. By aggressively fogging your yard, you are chemically sterilizing your own property. You are creating a massive, terrifying ecological vacuum. Now, consider the reproductive cycle of the mosquito. A mosquito goes from a floating egg to an aquatic larva to a flying, biting adult in approximately 7 to 10 days. The chemical fog you sprayed on the leaves breaks down in the sunlight after just a few days. When the next generation of mosquito eggs hatches in your neighbor's clogged gutter and they fly over the fence into your yard, what do they find? They find an environment with absolutely zero natural predators. No spiders, no dragonflies. Nothing is left to eat them. Because you killed the natural defense system, the new mosquito population explodes exponentially, completely unchecked. You have made the underlying disease significantly worse by violently treating the immediate symptom. Number. The shift, Kyosei, and the biological Trojan horse. The Japanese horticultural approach completely flips this aggressive, reactionary, and highly destructive script upside down. A master Japanese gardener does not look at a mosquito problem and attempt to wage total chemical warfare on the entire flying insect kingdom. They rely on the deeply rooted philosophical concept of Kyosei, the idea of living in cooperative harmony with the natural environment, utilizing nature's own mechanisms rather than trying to brutally dominate them. Instead of chasing flying adult mosquitoes through the air with toxic fog, the Japanese approach targets the absolute most vulnerable stage of the insect's life cycle, the aquatic larval stage. And they do not repel the mosquito. They actively, brilliantly invite her in. We are going to deploy a biological Trojan horse. We are going to build an ovitrap, commonly known as the biological bucket of doom. Instead of trying to find and dump every single microscopic drop of water in a 1-mile radius, we are going to intentionally create the absolute perfect, irresistible breeding ground for pregnant female mosquitoes. We are going to lure them into a specific container, let them lay their eggs, and then use a naturally occurring soil bacteria to quietly, safely annihilate the offspring. The active biological ingredient, BTI. To execute this, we are absolutely forbidden from using chemical poisons. We are going to use BTI, Bacillus thuringiensis subspecies israelensis. BTI is not a synthetic chemical. It is a naturally occurring microscopic soil bacterium that was discovered in a stagnant pond in Israel in the 1970s. BTI is a biological miracle. It produces a highly specific protein crystal that is violently toxic to only two things on planet Earth: mosquito larvae and fungus gnat larvae. When a mosquito larva eats the BTI bacteria in the water, the highly alkaline environment of the mosquito's stomach chemically activates the protein crystal. The crystal immediately destroys the larva's stomach lining, killing it in a matter of hours. Here is the absolute genius of BTI. It is completely 100% harmless to absolutely everything else. Honeybees do not have the specific stomach alkalinity to trigger the crystal. Birds, dogs, cats, frogs, fish, and humans are completely immune to it. You could drop a BTI tablet into a fish pond, and the fish would swim through it, drink it, and be perfectly fine, while every single mosquito larva in the pond drops dead. It is precision biological targeting. Number, the master technique, building the biological ovitrap. Now we build the trap. We are going to create an environment that pregnant female mosquitoes literally cannot resist, pulling them away from your patio and tricking them into destroying their own genetic lineage. Step 1. The vessel. You need a dark container. Female mosquitoes actively seek out dark, shaded, protected bodies of water to lay their eggs, mimicking the hollow of a rotting tree stump. Go to the hardware store and buy a cheap, dark-colored 5-gallon plastic bucket. Black, dark green, or dark blue works perfectly. Do not use a bright white or yellow bucket. Step 2. The irresistible scent, the fermentation. A bucket of clean, pure tap water will not attract a mosquito. Mosquito larvae feed on decaying organic matter in the water. Therefore, pregnant females use highly sensitive olfactory receptors to hunt for the scent of stagnant, rotting vegetation, specifically the carbon dioxide and methane released by decomposition. Fill the dark bucket about halfway with plain water. Now, walk out into your yard and grab 2 large handfuls of dead grass clippings, a few handfuls of dried straw, or a pile of dead oak leaves. Throw this organic matter directly into the bucket of water. Within 48 hours, that vegetation will begin to ferment and break down. The water will turn a dark, murky brown. It will emit a microscopic, earthy scent of decay. To a human, it smells like a slightly dirty puddle. To a pregnant female mosquito hovering 100 feet away, it smells like a 5-star luxury maternity ward. It is completely irresistible. Step 3. The biological assassin. Now we arm the trap. Go to any garden center or hardware store and buy a small blister pack of mosquito dunks. These look like small, beige, donut-shaped rings. They are nothing more than compressed sawdust, heavily inoculated with the biological BTI bacteria we discussed earlier. Take 1 single BTI dunk and drop it directly into your dark, murky bucket of fermented water. The dunk will float on the surface, slowly dissolving over the course of 30 to 45 days, continuously releasing the deadly bacteria into the water column. Step 4. Strategic placement. Where you place this biological trap is critical to its success. Do not place the bucket right next to your patio chairs, and do not place it in the blazing, direct afternoon sun. Mosquitoes are incredibly weak flyers. During the heat of the day, they hide in the deep, dark, cool shade of heavy bushes and under the leaves of dense trees. You want to place your bucket of doom exactly where they live. Carry the bucket to the furthest, darkest, most heavily shaded perimeter of your property. Hide it deeply under the canopy of a heavy bush, or tuck it behind the tool shed out of the wind. The biological collapse. Here is exactly what happens over the next 2 weeks. The pregnant female mosquito wakes up at dusk. She is desperate to lay her eggs. She smells the intoxicating scent of rotting grass coming from your bucket. She flies directly to it, ignoring the rest of your yard. She lands on the stagnant water and happily deposits 200 to 300 eggs on the surface. She thinks she has secured the survival of her species, and she flies away to die. 3 days later, those 300 eggs hatch into tiny, wriggling larvae. The larvae immediately begin aggressively filtering the water for food. They consume the organic matter, and they consume the BTI bacteria. Within 12 hours, their stomach linings rupture. All 300 larvae drop dead to the bottom of the bucket. You have successfully weaponized their own reproductive cycle against them. Instead of one female mosquito yielding 300 biting adults a week later, she yields absolutely 0. When you set up 2 or 3 of these buckets around the perimeter of a residential property, you systematically collapse the local breeding population. The biting adults die off naturally from old age within a couple of weeks, and because you have trapped and assassinated all of their replacements, the population drops to 0. Number. The concrete economics, cost versus value. We need to have a very honest, transparent conversation about the financial realities of your property, and we need to look at the exact, concrete numbers comparing the American chemical fogging trap to the Japanese biological biocontrol method. The standard American homeowner, locked in the cycle of summer panic, will spend a small fortune trying to forcefully poison their yard into submission. When you sign a contract with a professional mosquito fogging company, they typically charge between $70 and $90 per application. Because the chemical breaks down in the sun, they are required to come back every 3 weeks. Over a standard 5-month summer mosquito season, you are paying for at least 7 applications. That is a recurring annual cost of $500 to $650 strictly to rent temporary relief, while simultaneously funding the total ecological collapse of your local pollinator population. Over a 10-year period, you are blindly, stubbornly spending well over $6,000, not to permanently fix your property, but simply to fund an endless, guaranteed cycle of chemical dependency. Now, look closely at the exact math of the Japanese biological method. Performing the times Mizutamari times audit and dumping out the standing water in your kids' toys costs exactly $0. Gathering a handful of dead grass clippings or leaves from your own lawn costs exactly $0. A cheap, dark, 5-gallon plastic bucket from the hardware store costs $5. A blister pack containing 6 biological BTI mosquito dunks costs approximately $12. Because one dunk lasts for a full 30 days, that single $12 pack is enough to arm one bucket for the entire 6-month summer season. You are trading hundreds of dollars of recurring frustration, guaranteed ecological damage, and sticky chemical sprays for a $17 investment in pure, targeted, biological infrastructure. The math is not even close, and the gap in value widens exponentially every single year. The chemically dependent yard will always remain a sterile, predator-free vacuum that requires more and more poison. The biologically defended yard allows the dragonflies and spiders to return and thrive, creating a natural, self-sustaining defense perimeter that costs you absolutely nothing. Number. The emotional payoff and the habits of prevention. I want you to pause and vividly imagine the emotional payoff of this complete transition. Imagine it is the absolute dead heat of late August next summer. The humidity is sitting at 80%. The sun is just starting to dip below the horizon, casting a long, golden shadow across your lawn. Usually, this is the exact moment the panic sets in. This is the moment you scramble to grab the toxic bug spray, light the smoky candles, and retreat indoors. But not this year. This year, you walk out onto your patio completely barefoot. You sit down in your comfortable chair with a cold drink. You do not light a single candle. Your skin is completely free of sticky, terrible-smelling chemical repellents. You sit there in perfect, absolute peace. You hear the crickets chirping, but you do not hear the high-pitched whine of a mosquito in your ear. You do not have to slap your ankles once. You look out across your yard, and you see fireflies glowing in the bushes. You see honeybees safely returning to their hives. You have successfully transformed a hostile, biting war zone into a tranquil, permanent oasis. And you did it not by fighting nature, but by quietly outsmarting it. But fixing the immediate mosquito population is only half the total equation. The Japanese method demands that we radically change the everyday, underlying maintenance habits that allowed the population to explode in the first place. You have to immediately adopt 3 highly specific, preventative habits starting this very weekend. 1. The post-rain audit. First, you must build the habit of the post-rain audit. You cannot rely solely on the bucket of doom if you leave a dozen other better breeding options available to the mosquito. Every single time a heavy summer thunderstorm rolls through your neighborhood, you must wait 12 hours, put your boots on, and take a 10-minute walk around your property. Recheck the plastic saucers, the sagging tarps, and the wheelbarrow. If water has pooled, dump it out immediately. 2. The monthly BTI refresh. Second, you must commit to maintaining your biological trap. The BTI bacteria in the dung is a living organism, and the dung itself slowly dissolves over time. Set a recurring reminder on your phone for the first day of every month, from May until October. Walk out to your dark bucket, dump out half of the old, murky water, refill it with fresh tap water, add a fresh handful of dead grass clippings to keep the fermentation going, and drop in 1 brand new BTI dung. It takes 2 minutes of labor per month to maintain total control of the yard. 3. The airflow pruning wind defense. Third, you must physically alter the architecture of your landscape. Mosquitoes are incredibly weak, fragile flyers. They cannot fly in a breeze stronger than 1 mile per hour. They actively survive the heat of the day by hiding deep inside dense, overgrown, unpruned bushes where the air is perfectly still and humid. You must take a pair of sharp pruning shears and thin out the dense brush around your patio. Cut away the dead, overlapping branches of your heavy shrubs. Lift the canopy of the low-hanging trees. By simply opening up the physical architecture of the plants, you allow the natural breeze to blow entirely through the yard. You eliminate the stagnant, humid microclimates they require to survive the afternoon heat, physically evicting them from the property. Number. The mindset, soji, and permanent maintenance. This entire methodology ultimately requires a profound philosophical shift in how you view your everyday role on your property. We are consciously moving completely away from the loud, aggressive American mindset of harsh chemical intervention, total annihilation, and panicked rescues. We are adopting the quiet, steady, deeply observant Japanese mindset of soji. In traditional Japanese culture, soji times is not merely translated as cleaning, doing chores, or yard work. It is the profound daily or weekly rhythm of maintenance, performed intentionally as a centering, meditative practice. It is about fostering harmony and displaying a deep, inherent respect for the complex, living environment around you. You must learn to prevent rather than fight. You must learn to maintain rather than rescue. The multi-billion-dollar pest control industry desperately wants to keep you locked in a permanent state of frantic, expensive rescue. They want you waking up on a Saturday evening, getting bitten by a mosquito, and immediately running in a panic to the phone to hire a man with a toxic fogger to wage a weekend war on your own backyard. They are enthusiastically selling you the extremely expensive weapon to fight the visible symptom, while their very product destroys the underlying invisible ecological balance year after year. The Japanese method is a quiet, powerful invitation to permanently step off that exhausting battlefield. By shifting your absolute focus to the principles of times Kyosei, times by committing to meticulously building a biological trap, respecting the native predators, and utilizing natural bacteria rather than synthetic poison, you are setting up a resilient, defensible ecosystem that quite literally takes care of itself. Nature inherently knows exactly how to balance itself. Dragonflies, spiders, and birds have been hunting mosquitoes for millions of years, long before the first can of bug spray was ever manufactured, and long before we invented gas-powered chemical foggers. All the Earth asks of us is that we stop indiscriminately poisoning it and provide a hospitable, breathable, biologically rich environment for the natural predators to safely explore. When you take the time to physically dump the standing puddles, when you purposefully lure the mosquito to her demise with fermented grass clippings instead of repelling her with smoke, and when you carefully deploy the BTI bacteria to assassinate the larvae without harming a single honeybee, you are finally acting as a true steward of the land, rather than a conqueror trying to force it into submission. Your residential yard does not need to be a perpetual source of anxiety, stress, and toxic chemical exposure. It does not need to be an endless, exhausting drain on your precious summer evenings and your hard-earned bank account. By deeply understanding and consistently applying these quiet, steady, logical Japanese principles, the biting swarms will vanish permanently, effortlessly replaced by a thriving, vibrant, safe ecosystem. And you will eventually be left with a yard that feels as timeless, as remarkably resilient, and as effortlessly peaceful as the legendary gardens of Kyoto. The ultimate solution to your mosquito nightmare was never waiting for you inside a brightly colored can of poison at the hardware store. The permanent solution was always right there, waiting patiently in the biology of the water, ready for you to simply put it to work.